spectacular youngster Kevin Cunningham, a.k.a. Kid Cunny on Twitter. What's shaking today, my friend?
A little target, and I get off work a little earlier than I'm supposed to because it's Monday. So Mondays I write about good old Wisconsin high school sports, and today was more interesting because I got to write a feature article on this swimmer who's been to state now back-to-back times. So that was at least different, cool, interesting to write about and to talk to him about basically his life and his journey. So it was cool. It has been a good day so far, and I'm very amped up for the show because some of these Big Ten teams, Troy, actually only have 5 regular season games left until the Big Ten tournament. So it's really crunch time now. So I'm starting to really get up.
Well, yeah, we said last week. This last week was like a major stretch for a couple of teams. We're going to talk about it today, but really every week is a pretty major stretch. There's a lot of teams. We talked about the conference being split in half, and it's pretty darn close. I mean, if you look at that conference, Kevin, where the line is, I know we talked about Illinois playing hot right now, but their overall record is pretty poor.
Right.
And so for them to make a chance to get a bid, they literally would have to win the Big Ten tournament. I mean, they'd have to win out the regular season. That would put them, I think, right at 500. Then they'd have to win a couple games in the Big Ten. I mean, it would be a long journey for them. But really, we started the season saying there'd be 10 teams that we thought were legitimate NCAA teams. Excuse me. And right now we're looking probably, I mean, you got 6 teams that are probably, and I'll air quote, locked. I mean, because we don't know what's going to happen these last 5 games. And then below that, maybe 1 or 2. I mean, we're going to talk about the bubble teams today. It's really, I guess, the bids are being shaved. And I had texted you last week after a game. I don't remember what game it was, or maybe it was Saturday. I don't know. It was one day last week. And I said it's playing out the way we said. These middle teams are going to start beating each other up, and they're going to hurt the number of bids for the Big Ten because the Big Ten is so good. And we're seeing it now. These teams that we consider in the lower half of the league are beating teams in the upper half of the league, and that's hurting them, and it could hurt them here the last couple of weeks of the season. It's unbelievable that there might be some good teams, Kevin, left out, and there's going to be some good teams that don't get a double bye in the Big Ten tournament, and that could hurt them, playing that extra game. Maybe the win will help, but what if they lose? What if they don't win that first game, and they lose, and they don't have that double bye? It's gonna be fun to watch, but like we always do, let's get into it. You can do a quick recap of the top 25 if you want. Just say where everybody's fallen in place for the Big Ten.
Yeah. One thing I wanted, I'll go through that very quickly first because there was really not many changes in the Big Ten. As far as the AP Top 25 is concerned, we also talked a week ago about how we weren't sure if the committee was going to continuously release their top 16. They're not. So I think that was the only inkling of, hey, this is what they're thinking. I think that was it, February 9th.
So can I say something there before you continue then?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of stupid.
Right.
So 1 month before the NCAA tournament, we're going to give you the top 16 teams that we see today with a lot of basketball to be played, and then we're not going to release another one.
Right.
That's flat out stupid. I'm going to say it. I don't care if people get mad at me. So then whatever came out last week to me, Kevin, totally useless. I don't care.
Well, right. I mean, now it basically doesn't mean anything. Because wins are to be had, losses are to be had, and, even since then, which was, 9 days ago, there's definitely been some jostling up and down, and obviously some teams entering that top 16, some teams leaving. So anyway, is what it is. There's not much to make of that anymore. But here we are on February 18th, right? Yes, 18th. Here we are recording the show. So keep that in mind. It's a Monday, February 18th. But AP Top 25, Duke's 1, Gonzaga 2, Virginia 3, Kentucky 4, Tennessee got blasted by Kentucky on Sunday, I believe that was. So Tennessee now all the way down to 5. They were number 1 for a few weeks there. Nevada 6, Michigan 7, North Carolina 8, Houston 9, Michigan State 10. I'm not going to read off the rest, but Michigan 7, Michigan State 10. Michigan went down a spot. Michigan State went up a spot. But Big Ten-wise, again, still the same 6 teams in the top 25. I think these 6 are just really good. And Wisconsin lost 2 games this past week, 0-2 this past week. They dropped 2 spots. And that's exactly what should have happened. They lost to Michigan and Michigan State.
I know they had lost 2 big games, Kevin, and again, we always talk about the top 25, and I sometimes will kind of scoff my nose at it because sometimes I'm just like, whatever. But I said it earlier in the season, it seems like this year they might be getting it right because Wisconsin didn't deserve to drop out of the top 25. In years past, I think they might have.
Yeah.
They lost to Michigan and Michigan State, 2 teams that are in the top 10, and you're on the fringe of the top 25. You shouldn't move out. You lost two quality teams. So I was waiting for the rankings to come out and not see Wisconsin in them, Kevin. I really thought, the voters are going to drop them out, but they didn't. I mean, they dropped down a little bit, but I thought they were going to drop completely out of the top 25. And so you know me, Kevin. I'll be very critical, but when I think something's done right, I'll give credit where credit is due. I'm going to give the voters credit this week because I think they got it right. Wisconsin did deserve to drop, but not out of the top 25 because those 2 losses were against 2 quality opponents. Now, we'll get into it later when we talk about Wisconsin. I think they needed to win one of those to really prove where they were, and it goes back to other things I've been saying about Wisconsin all year. But as far as their ranking is concerned, I didn't think they should drop out, and they didn't, so kudos to the voters for keeping them in the top 25.
It seems like the last couple of years we have bashed the polls, as most people do, because, people have their opinions as to where these teams should be ranked. But football, I think this past year was a little better. Once the College Football Playoff Committee revealed their top 25, top 4 in particular, there wasn't, I don't remember anything egregious really happening. And then this year in basketball, there's been nothing to me that screams out, well, that's stupid, that's ridiculous. No. So I haven't had a problem whatsoever, and maybe part of it is because we don't really, honestly, 100% give our full care into what the AP thinks because, it's the AP. It puts a number next to these teams' names on, the bottom of Fox Sports and CBS Sports and ESPN, but at the end of the day, it's up to the College Football Playoff Committee and the NCAA Tournament Committee in basketball. That's what matters. Nevada can be ranked 6th, but when this committee revealed their top 16 for the first time, they were 14th. So the AP is the AP. It is what it is. You can only take so much from it. Lastly, that I wanted to mention, Michigan 7, Michigan State 10. I'll read off the other Big Ten teams. Purdue is 15, Iowa 21, Wisconsin 22, Maryland 24. So there you go. There's the 6 teams, and all 6 of those teams I think are really good. I really do. Even looking at this top 25, like Virginia Tech was close to 10 at one point. They're at 20. Kansas State was in the Elite 8, I believe, last year. They lost a game. They're down at 23. Buffalo's 22-3 overall. They're number 25 in the AP poll. Villanova's Villanova, and they're 17. Louisville should have beat Duke. They're 18. Iowa State's always good. They're 19. Purdue has been playing really well. I know who'd they lose to? I think it was like Illinois, or they lost to someone this past week, and they're at 15. Texas Tech's got one of the best defenses, top 3 defense in the country. They're 14, and again, that's just me talking about the final 10, 11 teams in the top 25. You can make a case for all those teams being really good. Florida State at 16 should have beat Duke, lost on a buzzer beater. All these teams, I literally talked about all of them from 14 to 25. They're all good. So I think that, Duke's great. Gonzaga's great. Virginia is perfect outside of playing Duke. Kentucky just showed they could beat Tennessee by 20 points, basically. So there are a lot of really good teams, and even the teams that are going to be seeded like 4, 5, 6, I mentioned a couple teams that should have beat Duke, and that's supposedly the number one team in the country, and those are 4 seeds, 5 seeds. So there's a lot of parity, I think, this year in college basketball. I think there usually is, and I think there always are 8 to 10 teams that will realistically have a shot at winning the title. But I just feel like this year the top 25, like Team 25 isn't really that bad. Team 20, not a huge difference, and on any given night can absolutely beat Duke or Michigan or Kansas or whoever. So anyway, just my thoughts on that. You got anything else on the top 25, Troy?
No, I just want to kind of piggyback off your statement there. When you look at this year's March Madness, I think there's going to be some fun. I know that a lot of times people would go chalk and they take the higher seed. But when you look at some of these teams, even in the ACC, some of these teams in the Big Ten, maybe not so many other conferences, but you look at a 5th-place team in the Big Ten. Can a Wisconsin knock off a top 10 team? The answer is yes, they can. On one night. In a series, probably not. But since it's March Madness, it's one game, could happen. And I think, when we look at the bracket when it comes out, a lot of it's going to come up to pairing, of course, and style of play. But there's a number of teams that are going to be in that 4 to 7 range as far as seeds go that maybe could make a Final Four run. Right. Now, I mean, you got some teams like a Duke, and you're looking at them, Kevin. I know you're a Duke fan. They're a really good team. But again, you got to take a look at the pairings in the bracket. What if there's an 8-9 seed there that maybe could give Duke a little bit of trouble? And then you look after that, who's on the bottom of the bracket. So I'm real excited for the Big Ten because, like you said, you got the top 6 teams that we've talked about, and I air quoted, pretty much a lock because when you look at those bottom 6 or the top 6, Wisconsin would be the 6th. They're 9-5 in the conference right now, and when you look at their overall record, 17-8, should, unless the wheels fall totally off the bus, they should make the NCAA tournament. Then when we're going to talk about this in a little bit, you got Minnesota and Ohio State. Overall records 17-9, 16-9 respectively. They're hovering around 500 in the Big Ten. We've talked about the 20-game schedule. Both of these teams, if they can get to 10-10, should make the NCAA tournament. Should. Yeah. Doesn't mean they will. But if they get to 10-10, should make the NCAA tournament. Then you have Illinois sitting there at 6-8. It's playing really good basketball right now. They've won 4 in a row, Kevin. We left them on the side of the road a long time ago, and here they go, piling up 4 Big Ten wins. But if they got to 10-10, their overall record, like I talked about earlier in the show, they're 10-15. Right. So they've got 6 conference games left. That would put them at 16-15 overall. If they won 2 games in the Big Ten and lost, that's 18-16. I don't know if that's good enough. 18-16 is probably not good enough. They would most likely, even if they got to the championship game, maybe. I mean, they'd have to win out. That's a nice last 10, and the committee might look at that, but that's still, man, that's tough. But do you want to go down the standings real quick, and then we'll start getting into last week's games because, man, what a schedule in the Big Ten it was.
Yeah, standings-wise, you mentioned the top 6. You mentioned those 2 clear bubble teams that right now are in, according to everyone. I'll go over the bracketology stuff very quickly because there wasn't much change. But the one team that you had to go down one more spot for, this team went 2-0 this past week. I said they were going to go 2-0 after talking the last month about how they were playing the worst basketball in the Big Ten. And this is the team that I thought was absolutely going to make the NCAA tournament this year. They should have a year ago. They didn't. Obviously, people should probably be picking up by now, but I have been on the Nebraska bandwagon since just last week. It's not like I've been on this team's bandwagon forever. I was bashing them for a month, but with good reason. They were losing like 7 straight games. This past week, I said they'll go 2-0. They will start to get talked about, and it'll be like, hey, you know what? If this team keeps winning, they could be in the NCAA tournament. Again, I want to go over bracketology very quickly because it's just very easy to. Last week to this week, there was basically no changes. Michigan is still a 2 seed. Michigan State a 2 seed. Purdue a 4, depending on where you look at, 3 seed, 4 seed. Iowa kind of gets a lot of fluctuation, it looks like. Some spots have them as a 4, some spots have them a 5, some a 6. It's a good team, regardless. They'll be up there. Wisconsin 5, Maryland 6, Ohio State 9, Minnesota 9. Again, those 2 teams are realistically bubble teams, but they're on the good side of the bubble, so to say. But if you look at CBS, they have a team on the first 4 out that I was just talking about, and that's Nebraska. First 4 out. After they were 3-10 in the Big Ten and 13-11 overall and losers of 7 straight, they go 2-0 in 1 week, and look at that, first 4 out. I mean, that I wasn't expecting to see that. I wasn't expecting to see them anywhere near it. But the problem is I'm looking at next week's schedule. I actually get to be in front of a computer, like I told you, and so they've got they've got Penn State, and we've talked about this Penn State team, Kevin. Nebraska at Penn State. Penn State's not waving the white flag. Nebraska's got to go there, and they've got to take care of business. But then they have Purdue, right? And if they drop 2 this week, they're done. They're totally done. If they can beat Penn State, play a good game against Purdue, that would put them at 16-12 with a couple games to go. If Nebraska could get to 20 wins, maybe you're talking about a Nebraska sliding in at a 9 seed. Yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean, one of those first 4. I mean, they could be playing that Tuesday to be like an 11 seed or whatever it is. Those first 4 games, yeah. But I just look at it. They're playing good right now, but I hope they don't overlook Penn State when they got Purdue looming. I mean, that's a big game for Nebraska. If they can beat Purdue, wow, right. That'll put a stamp down. But if they lose to Penn State prior to that, a win at Purdue is almost a must-win then. So I hope they don't overlook Penn State, because we've talked about Penn State. Even though their record is horrid, they still play good basketball. They're not a team that and especially at Penn State, they play very competitive at home. So they're going to be a tough team to beat, and Nebraska's got to go there and take care of business. And that's the one thing I wanted to bring up about Nebraska too. Troy talked about Penn State, Purdue this next week, but even after that, it gets worse. Like, they travel to Michigan after they play Purdue. They then travel to Michigan State after they play Michigan. Then they're at home, the final game, at home against Iowa. So, I mean, that's horrid. That's 4 teams in the top 25, back to back to back to back. That's terrible. Well, it could also be a prove-it time for them, though, too, Kevin. Well, exactly. I mean, I was going to say, if they go, if they beat Penn State, lose to Purdue, lose to Michigan, beat Michigan State, beat Iowa, they go like 3-2. I mean, then at that point, you're looking at 18-13 overall, 8-12 in the Big Ten. That's probably not good enough, but at least in the last 10, it's like, hey, they're starting to prove it. Then it comes down to the Big Ten tournament, and it's like, if they can beat teams they're supposed to and pull one upset, that would get them to 20 wins. Then it's like, hey, you know what? Let's throw them in the first 4, see what they do. I could see that happening. The issue is, again, you got to win 3 against Penn State, Purdue, Michigan State, Iowa. I don't necessarily think that's happening, unfortunately. So as quick as I was to hop on Nebraska and say, you know what, this team's doing it, I failed to do my research, and it has pained me to say that now, looking at their schedule, actually, and this is something we haven't really done on the show much because there's been so many games left, but again, for some of these teams, there's 5 games left. That's it, till the Big Ten tournament. So it's hard not to look ahead a little bit, and this Nebraska schedule is terrible for them. Again, could be perfect if they prove to themselves and everyone that they're an NCAA tournament team. Here you go. Here's your opportunity. But the schedule could have been easier for them to, I guess, make their case. But, again, if they are as good as people thought they were coming into the year, maybe they do go 3-2 during this 5-game stretch. I thought they'd be better than Purdue this year. And Iowa, I thought they'd be better than Iowa this year. They haven't been at all.
They have the talent, Kevin. We just said they hadn't been playing up to it. And unfortunately, we talked about, was it because they thought they were good and all of a sudden things started steamrolling the wrong way? Maybe they stopped the steamroll. But again, like you said, now they've got a tough schedule. But this is a team that we thought was good enough to compete with teams that are on their schedule. So maybe they can take care of a Purdue. Maybe they can take care of an Iowa. We'll find out. They've got talent. They've got seniors that have been here, done that. Maybe Nebraska proves us all wrong. Maybe they can pull off 3-4 wins here at the end of the season. You know how momentum goes in sports, Kevin. You get on a roll, you get confidence, you get the shooting touch back. We talked about their shooting. It had been horrid. And so now you all of a sudden get your shot back. You start playing as a team. You start getting competitive in these last 5 games. Who knows what will happen?
Yeah, Big Ten standings very quickly. And that's the one team I really wanted to highlight of these teams not in the top 8 that are in right now. Because, again, Illinois is 10-15, Rutgers 12-13, Indiana 13-12, but they've been playing terribly.
Poor Rutgers.
I know.
Poor Rutgers, and it doesn't get easier for them. I was looking at their schedule. They need to be 500. They need to be overall 500 for that NIT I was talking about.
Yeah, they're 12-13. Indiana 13-12, but again, been playing horrible. Northwestern 12-13, Penn State 9-16, and Indiana again has had injury issues, kind of a lot like Wisconsin did a year ago. Not necessarily to their best player for the entire season, but just nicks and knacks to 2-3 contributors at a time, or one guy gets hurt and then he comes back, and then 2 get hurt and then 1 comes back and then another gets hurt. It's just they haven't been 100% this year. So that's definitely part of it. But 13-12 overall, 4-10 in the Big Ten, obviously not good enough. A couple months ago, people thought, hey, 10 seed, 11 seed, first 4 in, first 4 out. That's hasn't been the case the last few weeks. Nebraska just overall record-wise is that one team to really look for going forward. And then Minnesota, Ohio State are obviously interesting because Ohio State's lost 2 straight, and if they keep losing, could get interesting. They're 0-4 against AP top 25 teams this year. So again, they don't have that signature win necessarily either. Minnesota's 3-5. At least you've got some wins in there. Ohio State's 0-4. So a little different, but again, we'll get to it obviously as the weeks go on. Big Ten standings very quickly. Michigan at 12-3. Michigan State also at 12-3. So those 2 teams are tied. Purdue at 11-3. Need to play one more. Maryland at 10-5. You see a little gap there. Iowa 9-5. Wisconsin 9-5. Then you see another big drop from the top 6 to the next couple. Minnesota 7-8. Ohio State 6-8. Illinois 6-8. They've won 4 straight, but again, like Troy was saying, 10-15 overall. That's the same Big Ten record as Ohio State. Been playing better than Ohio State the last, month. But Ohio State's 16-9. Illinois is 10-15. And I think we talked about this a couple months ago that Illinois' non-conference schedule was like horrendously difficult. I believe it was Illinois. It was definitely one of these Big Ten teams, and I want to say it was Illinois. Could have been someone else, but Illinois, regardless, non-conference-wise, didn't get it done. Ohio State did. That's the difference from being a 9 seed and being not even considered necessarily on the bubble. So even though these teams are going in 2 different directions and Illinois has got the same exact conference record, non-conference does matter, as much as we kind of breeze through it. Anyway, Nebraska 5-10, Rutgers 5-10, Indiana 4-10, Northwestern 3-11, Penn State coming up on the rear at 2-12. Got anything there, Troy? Otherwise, I'll start recapping last week's action.
Now let's get into last week because what a week it was, and this upcoming week is going to be just as fun. So let's get into it.
Last Monday, the 11th, no games happened. So just want to make sure fans aren't too harsh on us. You can be harsh on us. Go to Twitter @youngsteroldman. Be harsh. That's perfectly fine. But just wanted to say that last Monday there were no games because we do this show on a Monday. So wanted to go back to Monday and make sure, hey, Monday, no games. So anyway, got that done. Tuesday, Michigan at Penn State. I talked about it on last week's show. Hey, bottom team of the conference. They play teams hard. They're at home, and they're against Michigan, a team that doesn't score it too easily, at least over the last month or so. Their offense just hasn't been working as well. Only conference in the league, in my opinion, where the bottom team has a legit shot to beat the top team. And they did. Penn State beat Michigan, 75-69. They were up 40-27 by halftime. John Beilein got a couple technicals, got thrown out in this game. I mean, that can happen in this league. Penn State, bottom of the conference. You know, Nebraska was basically second to the bottom. Now Nebraska's a first four team out. You know, Northwestern's got some talented players. Indiana has talent, has been injured. Rutgers had a streak there where they were playing well. You know, still 5-10 in conference. It's not horrid. And then you got Illinois trending upwards, 6-8. And then from that point on, it's a bunch of NCAA tournament teams. And this conference, just top to bottom, has talent at the very least on every single team. If you're not ultra talented, then you've got young guys who are getting better and playing better, or you're an NCAA tournament team. I mean, this conference is fairly loaded. Got to say, even though we do a Big Ten show, you know, last year we couldn't say that. Absolutely not. This year, different story. Completely 100%. Also on Tuesday, Michigan State went to Wisconsin and won 67-59. I didn't get to see much of this game, but just from what I can tell, Wisconsin scored 21 points in the second half. That's not going to be good enough. You know,
no, Kevin, but I stayed up, and you know I got to be up early for work.
Yeah.
So I stayed up to watch that Wisconsin-Michigan State end, and it's basically what we've talked about many times on this show. You got to win the last 2 minutes of a game. And Wisconsin had a chance, or they were close. They weren't playing great basketball in the second half, but they lost the last 2 minutes. Actually, the last 3 minutes they lost. And here's what happened. We've talked about Wisconsin. For them to be successful, other people got to step up. What happened is they started feeding the ball to Happ, and Happ was the focal point, and Happ was the only guy trying to do anything. And there was nothing else going on around him with the supporting cast. And that's basically what I saw happening there at the end of the game. And we've talked about it many times. I was sitting there, I was getting ready to text you, and I was going to say Wisconsin's going to lose this game by double digits. And it was pretty close because they were just trying to get the ball to Happ, trying to make Happ get them back into a groove, and nobody else was stepping up. It was actually, I got really frustrated at the end of that game because Wisconsin had a chance against Michigan State, and then it just faltered. And I think the key to that game, and I don't know how much time was left in the game, Michigan State did exactly what every team should do when Happ gets the ball in a close game, foul him. Because he is the most piss-poor free throw shooter in the Big Ten. He shoots like 47%. And Michigan State fouled him when he had the ball in the post, and the game was close. I believe it was like a 1 or a 2 point game, and Happ missed both. Missed them both. And Michigan State went down. I don't know if they drained a three, but they got a bucket, and they increased the lead, and they never looked back after that. The game was close at that point. And I don't know if it was planned to follow Happ, but if I'm a team and I'm playing against Wisconsin late in the game and it's close and Happ gets the ball, I'm following him. Make him earn them. Make him earn the points from the stripe because he's terrible at the line. So I got real frustrated, especially after those two misses, and that's when I'm like, they're going to lose by 10. Because everything was trying to go through Happ in a forced way, and I think you know what we're talking about there. Nobody else was stepping up on the outside, so I was a little frustrated with that game, Kevin. You there, my friend? Are you on mute?
Yes, I was on mute. I'm here. What I was saying for the last 5 seconds was, yes, I remember seeing that. So I thank you for bringing it up because I was not writing some games occasionally. I'll write notes down, you know, because it's a game that I know I watched a lot of or all of, and something I want to talk a little more in depth about on our show that we do every week. So I watched that part and thinking the same thing that you did, that if the game's close and come NCAA tournament time, Wisconsin should be in one or two or more close games at the end. Hap's got the ball, just foul them. That's probably the most efficient way you can play defense against them late in a game that's close. So yeah, that's something to look for that could be very interesting once March rolls around and the NCAA tournament's here. Also on Tuesday, another big game. Maryland was at home to Purdue, and Purdue in the first half scored 38 points, looking good. But as we've seen with Maryland a few times this year, occasionally they'll have a bad first half, a really good second half, or a bad first half and a really good, or the opposite, a really good first half and a poor second half. That happened to Wisconsin against Wisconsin. I think the first time they met, and Wisconsin, was like a point away from winning the game with a minute left. But in this game, Maryland outscored Purdue in the second half 40-18. So that was the difference in the game. Maryland won 70-56. Again, that win was huge. We were talking a week ago about how Maryland could very easily go 0-2 this week, and Maryland beat Purdue. That second half was huge for them. So that was big. At the end of the week, Maryland goes 1-1, but 1-1 is a lot better than 0-2. As simple as that may sound, but anyway.
Well, the thing with Maryland, Kevin, is they had that tough week too, like Wisconsin did, and we didn't really even mention Wisconsin last week as they've got a tough road this week. A little more focused on Maryland, but Maryland going 1-1, that is huge for them. And I didn't say it when you brought up bracketology, but honestly, with Maryland going 1-1 last week and Wisconsin going 0-2, a lot of these brackets have Wisconsin as a higher seed than Maryland. I'd give Maryland a higher seed than Wisconsin right now. Again, I'm probably more real about Wisconsin basketball than a lot of people that are just watching from afar. Like I said, and you just brought it up, if Hap is going to be the only threat that a team has to defend and he's going off on you, just hack him. Do the old hack-a-shack. Wisconsin is, to me, not a complete basketball team, Kevin. They can be. They've proved it to me. They can be a complete basketball team, but when they're not, they're a team that could lose to Penn State. They're a team that could lose, and we'll bring it up when we recap the schedule or go over next week's games or this week's games. They could lose to Illinois if they're not a complete team. If Hap is the only guy that can do anything, they're in trouble. But I wanted to bring it up that Maryland beating Purdue, that's a huge win.
Yeah.
And so you go through the brackets, and I'm like, I would put Maryland, if the tournament started now, I would make Maryland a higher seed than Wisconsin.
Right.
But it's not how it's rolling out.
I hear you, or at least the same. I wouldn't put Maryland behind a seed line lower. But that's just us. Again, tweet at us at YoungsterOldMan, all one word, at YoungsterOldMan on Twitter. So tell us how stupid we are. Tell us how brilliant we are. We love to hear everything. So anyway, moving on to Wednesday, the 13th, Rutgers at Northwestern. Rutgers went on the road and beat Northwestern. The game was close late. Rutgers won it, obviously. 59-56. Again, goes to show the improvement that Rutgers has had, and their coach, Steve Picciol, I believe, they're doing well. Like, one game out from 500 overall, and last year I think they had a couple Big Ten wins, and this season they're already at 5. Like I said before, 5-10 in conference. That's not horrid. That's just a below-average team in an outstanding conference. It's hard to beat the top 6 teams because they're all pretty damn good. Loss. That's 100% acceptable if you're not a good team. And I don't think Rutgers is a good team, but I think they're below average. I don't think they're terrible. That's not how they're playing this last month and a half. It's not terrible basketball at all. A lot like.
And didn't we say on the show last week that if I'm a Northwestern fan, I better not overlook Rutgers.
Yeah.
Better not overlook Rutgers coming to your house because they're going to come and play. And they went and played. And now Northwestern is nowhere near where they had been in the past couple of years, but still. I mean, you look at it and you can do two things here, Kevin. You can say, well, is this going to point that Rutgers is getting better in basketball, or is Northwestern just that bad in basketball? And I would point the other way. I'd say Rutgers is making improvements, and Northwestern is just not a good team this year. Again, they're in the same class as Rutgers. And I guess if you're a Northwestern basketball fan, that's probably pretty disappointing to say that you're in the same class as Rutgers. But that's where you are. That's reality.
And you were at home and you lost to Rutgers. So that's a real thing. It's not like you went on the road, Rutgers played great, and it's just one of those terrible games. No, you were at home. You scored 34 points in the second half. You didn't get blown out in the second half. You were tied at halftime. You still lost. So, anyway, also on Wednesday, Nebraska at home to Minnesota. Here's the start of Nebraska's huge 2-0 run here. With 1.1 seconds left, James Palmer made 2 free throws. And there you go. Nebraska wins 62-61. Obviously a close game. Obviously could have went Minnesota's way. Obviously could have really derailed Nebraska. But they go 2-0 in 1 week, and people think they're potentially a tournament team, which I think is jumping the gun a bit. But their record says otherwise, at least when you look overall. But, again, in conference 5-10 in the Big Ten is a bad record, but you've got 5 games left. And if you win more than you lose and you win a couple games in the Big Ten tournament, which I think is absolutely possible for Nebraska, they could play one of the bottom dwellers in the first round. And then in the second round, you got to pull an upset. If they do that, you're looking at 20 wins. But again,
it'll be interesting, Kevin, to see how the committee is going to view regular season Big Ten record. I mean, in the past, you had to be at 500 or better, usually in the Big Ten. But now they went to a 20-game schedule. So is that going to play into the committee's mind? An 8-12 in the Big Ten, or a 9-11 in the Big Ten? Is that going to be sufficient, or do you have to get to the magical 10 wins? We'll find out. We'll find out, because you've got Minnesota and Ohio State sitting there, and they're both 6-8 in the Big Ten. What if one of those teams? I mean, I know most of the brackets have them in, but what if one of those teams goes 9-11, and they still have the overall record, but 9-11 in the Big Ten is below 500 in their conference, going to be a detriment to getting a bid? It'll be something that I'll really want to keep a close eye on, because to me, the Big Ten did great things going to a 20-game schedule, but is it going to hurt them when it comes to the big dance? We'll find out. Again, my short, quick hypothetical here with Nebraska, they go 3-2. They impress some people these last 5 games. That puts them at 8-12 in conference. They win 2, pull 1 upset in the Big Ten tournament, and then lose to another team that they should lose to. They don't pull the upset there. That gets them to 10-13, really, overall in conference, which doesn't look that good. But, again, you got 20 wins, and you pulled an upset, and you've been hot the last month of the season. I don't know if that's going to be good enough. It'll be very interesting to see. Anyway, they've got to take care of business and pull a couple upsets as it is these last 5 games. But certainly a team to keep an eye on. That's all I can say about them. Thursday, only game. Illinois went to Ohio State. Again, Illinois playing well. Ohio State's not. Illinois is really starting to understand their identity, and they only scored 63 points in this game, but Ohio State only scored 56. So Illinois' defense coming to play to go on the road to Ohio State and win. And this week for Ohio State was terrible. I mean, they were at home to Illinois and lost by 7, and then they got blasted by Michigan State by 20 points. You know, you could make up for it and even lose close to Michigan State. And that's acceptable, 100%. But they got killed. So Ohio State certainly trending downward, Illinois trending upward, but Illinois' overall record is the issue. Minnesota playing solid basketball, and also around 500 in Big Ten play. So as it is, Minnesota, Ohio State in. Illinois has got work to do because their non-conference was
atrocious. Friday, no games on the 15th. Saturday the 16th, there were plenty of games. Michigan at home against Maryland. Michigan won that by 13. I watched the entirety of this game, and Michigan was up 27-18 at halftime. It should have been much worse. Michigan should have been up like 15, but their offensive woes certainly played a part in that first half. Second half, Maryland certainly played them tougher. It was a 13-point game at the end. Michigan won, but Maryland showed some heart in the second half and, didn't get blown out necessarily. Michigan should have blown them out is what I really took away from that game. But anyway, Purdue at home against Penn State. Penn State lost by 12. I didn't watch that game start to finish. I caught a few minutes of it, but Purdue did what they were supposed to do. It's almost weird to see Penn State lose by double digits, to be honest. I feel like it's been a while since it's like, oh yeah, Penn State lost by 12. Penn State lost by 15. It almost doesn't happen much, which again is weird for a team on the bottom of the conference, but that's the way it's been. Purdue took care of business there. Rutgers at home against Iowa. Rutgers could have been 13-12 overall, could have been 6-9 in the Big Ten, but Iowa hit a banked-in three-pointer at the end of the game to win it, 71-69. They were down 69-68. They hit a banked three-pointer. I don't know if you saw this, Troy, but it was literally in the corner of the court, and he banked it in.
Saw it. Yeah,
unbelievable.
I saw it.
Poor Rutgers. Ridiculous.
That's what I'm saying. Poor Rutgers. Wouldn't that have been a huge win for Rutgers?
Should have been.
That's not beating a Northwestern. That would have been beating Iowa, and they had the lead, and they lose on a shot that'll be made 1 out of every 100 times.
I was going to say, I think I've made a shot like that like once or twice in my life, like probably just screwing around. I haven't made a shot like that in a game. I've made a half-court shot to win a basketball game. That's an unbelievable feeling. But a shot like that from the corner and banking it in, that's like that's a stupid horse shot you take. Like, I'll bank it in.
I was just going to say that's a kind of shot that you attempt when you're playing horse against somebody, and you're up like you have one letter and they're all the way up at S, and you're like, oh, I'm going to try something crazy here to end this.
Exactly.
So I'm going to try this shot. That's what it reminded me of. Like, that's probably not the shot that they were looking to get, and it's just unfortunate. I mean, again, we talked about Rutgers. They played a really good game against a really good team. So you cannot take Rutgers light. You have to go out and play. And, again, I'm tired of saying teams are overlooking Rutgers and looking ahead, because Rutgers is just playing hard. And if you haven't figured it out by now this late in the season, that you need to actually play against Rutgers, shame on you. Shame on you for that.
This team should be above 500, should be 6-9 conference. They should be, what does that put them? That puts them ahead of 4 other teams in conference. That's, certainly a big improvement from where they were a year ago. No question they're playing better basketball and competing and potentially beating teams they shouldn't be. That's, certainly a 180 for Rutgers basketball. I will say that. Rutgers football, not so much. Rutgers basketball, turning some corners. Absolutely. Minnesota at home against Indiana. This is another team. This team might be playing the worst of any Big Ten team at this point. Indiana, they went on the road to Minnesota, which again is hard to do, hard to win. Going on the road to play a legitimate NCAA tournament team, they lost by 21. They're just not scoring like they're supposed to be. They got a top 5 recruit in Romeo Langford, and he's been healthy as far as I know, been playing every single game. But again, other key contributors have been out from time to time, but you still shouldn't be losing games by 20. Like, Wisconsin had this issue a year ago with injuries. They weren't getting blown out by 20 and being 4-10 in the Big Ten. Wisconsin certainly had a down year a year ago, no question about it, but I feel like Indiana it's been terrible. Ever since conference play started, it's just been atrocious. Last game on Saturday, Nebraska at home against Northwestern. again, Northwestern, and maybe Northwestern's the team that's playing the worst. I don't know. Seems like Indiana just gets blown out more than Northwestern does. But regardless, Nebraska taking care of business at home, beating a team they probably should, a team they definitely should. But based on the way they're playing, you could see it going either way. But I said Nebraska would go 2-0 this week. They did. Last week, that is. So 15-11 overall, 5-10 in the Big Ten. Again, these last 5 games are going to be enormous, and 4 of them back-to-back against real NCAA tournament teams that are going to be top 6 seeds, probably, most likely. If one gets to a 7 seed, that's terrible. I feel bad for the 2 seed that gets by the 15 in the first round and then has to see Wisconsin or Iowa or Maryland as a 7 seed. That'd be terrible for that 2 seed. So that's my story there. On Sunday, there was only one game. Like I said, Ohio State went to Michigan State, lost 62-44. Ohio State actually had the lead at halftime, and then they scored 13 points in the second half. I didn't see any of this game, not going to lie, but fairly easy to say that Ohio State's offense just stopped working at halftime, and Michigan State can at times certainly put the clamps on teams, and I'm sure that's what happened in the second half. I'm sure it wasn't just a terrible shooting output by Ohio State. Michigan State at times is a top 10 defensive team. No question about it. So Michigan State proving that they are still Michigan State, and that 3-game skid they had without without Joshua Langford, they seem to have overcome that, and they've now won 3 straight. So that's what a really good team does, is they bounce back from having a little valley. They go up on the hill. Yeah,
you stole my word, youngster. Every team has their hills and valleys during the season.
There we go.
And it's funny because just a week and a half ago, everybody's writing off Michigan State because Langford gets hurt. They're losing games. Oh, maybe Michigan State's – no, it's Michigan State. It's Tom Izzo. It's the middle of February. Michigan State will play good basketball from here on out. Will they lose a game? Maybe. Maybe. They're playing really good right now. The last 3, they played really good. Against Wisconsin, again, Kevin, I watched that game, like I said. And so being a Wisconsin guy, I can really, really play into it. Wisconsin is a good team, but I'm also very real. They were battling with Michigan State. And Michigan State, at the end, just, again, put the clamps down defensively. And if you watch that game and the pressure that Michigan State can play defensively, it is very hard, especially when you're playing against Michigan State. So Michigan State, you go back to it and you have to look at the whole body of work that Tom Izzo does at Michigan State. They will plod along, and then the middle of February comes, and boom, Michigan State's ready for NCAA tournament time. Now, they get kicked out or bounced out, whatever you want to say, early some years, but this team plays good basketball in the middle of February, and it's hard to bet against them, Kevin.
Yep. I agree 100%. Monday, now, the 18th, tonight, as we're doing this show. So we are now previewing for this coming week. Get your DVRs and your clickers ready, folks, or, remotes, DVD players, whatever you do to watch these games. Sling TV, YouTube, Hulu, whatever you do. Monday night, so probably not hearing this in time for Monday night, but Wisconsin
it all depends on how fast you get the write-up, and it all depends on how fast Coach can get it up. Maybe it's up tonight. Who knows? Maybe.
Okay. Wisconsin at home against Illinois. It is the only game, Monday night, 8 p.m. on FS1. So if you can catch some of it, folks, it actually could be an interesting one. Wisconsin should win.
I'm hoping I can turn it off at halftime, Kevin. In a good way.
Yeah.
In a good way. But Illinois is playing good basketball.
Yeah.
And if Illinois took anything away from watching Wisconsin last week, they know what to do. It's almost to the point, Kevin, now where if you're playing against Wisconsin, is maybe you should let Ethan Happ do what he needs to do and shut down the other 4. Because if you do that, you have a really good chance to win. I mean, Ethan Happ can control a game, but there's 5 guys on the court. He can't score 60 points. You need the compliments. Purdue finds that out too. Edwards is a great player, but he needs some help. And these guys can lead a team and carry a team, but you need contributions from somebody else. But like Michigan State did against Wisconsin late in the game, they took away every other option. The guys didn't contribute. They made it hard for those guys to score. And if Illinois took anything away, yeah, maybe you don't just worry about Ethan Happ. Because when you double team Ethan Happ and those other guys get into a rhythm outside, that's when Wisconsin wins. So, yeah, it could be an interesting game tonight, the way Illinois is playing, but it is at Wisconsin. So Wisconsin is tough at home, youngster.
Yeah. Georgi Bazanishvili, that freshman that I talked about a couple of weeks ago, he's a good player. Desunmu is a guard, good player. Trent Frazier is a guard, good player. They're starting to learn Brad Underwood's system and getting up and down the court and shooting the ball efficiently and having good guard play. That's what they want to do. So completely differs most of the Big Ten. But, Michigan State sometimes goes with 4-guard lineups. Iowa, they've got a number of quality bigs, but they want to get up and down and score. So it's less of a big man's, grinded out 64-60 win in the Big Ten for all these teams. That's not necessarily the case anymore, but especially when you bring in Brad Underwood and that's his system is to get up and down the court with a bunch of guards. Illinois is figuring it out. That's why they've won 4 straight. That's why they're 5-1 in the last 6. That includes wins over Maryland and Michigan State and Nebraska and at Ohio State. I mean, they're not. It's not Cupcake City that they're just gliding through. That they're beating legitimate NCAA tournament teams and 2 seeds at that. So Illinois is not a joke right now. But also moving on to Tuesday, not going to call Indiana a joke, but Purdue is traveling to Indiana Tuesday night, ESPN2. Both these teams in the same state, so there will be a little bit of bad blood there, and especially since Indiana's not been playing well, Purdue has. Would be a nice upset for Indiana to get at Assembly Hall. I would assume Purdue takes it. Yeah, same here. I'm sure the game's 80-something to 60-something. That's my assumption. I think it's going to be ugly. Nebraska at Penn State. Again, Troy talked about this earlier. This is a chance, certainly, for Nebraska to go on the road and pick up, even if it is a 64-60 win. Hey, that's 3 straight wins. That's 16 wins.
This game for Nebraska, Kevin, isn't about pageant points. It isn't about how pretty. You go to Penn State, just be leaving the arena with a win because it's tough. It doesn't matter how you get the win. You can shoot 20% from the field, but make a shot at the buzzer to win. Doesn't matter. You need to get a win.
Especially when you've got 4 ranked teams back to close out the regular season. Like, you're either going to win games you shouldn't and prove to the committee we belong, or you're not, and you're going to lose. Doesn't matter how you win these games. And it starts with Penn State. Again, you can say it's weird, doesn't make sense, but no one's going to look at how Nebraska beat Penn State. People are going to look at, oh, my God, Nebraska beat Michigan. Oh, my God, Nebraska beat Michigan State, too. Oh, my God, Nebraska beat Iowa. Oh, the Big Ten tournament, they went to, and beat Wisconsin in the second round, pulled an upset there. That's what they're going to talk about. They're not going to talk about how they beat Penn State February 19th. Just win. That's all that matters. Get to 20 wins. Make it harder for the committee to leave you out than in a 68-team field. If Nebraska's playing well and they've got 20 wins, you can say they're 8-13, whatever it is, in conference play. But if they're hot the last month and they've got 20 wins and they've got senior guards on this team, and make it hard for the committee to leave you out. Just win.
Here's the thing, Kevin, with Nebraska. Their last 4 games are tougher than their whole schedule last year.
Probably accurate.
So, here you're absolutely right, though. If they got to 20 wins, the committee's got to look at how they've played, and I know the committee uses that last 10. How is the team playing heading into the tournament? As long as they're in these games, playing these top top-ranked teams tough. And, okay, they're not supposed to win these games, but if they're going to have to pull an upset in there. They can't go 0-4. They're going to have to get a win in there, and possibly 2. If they went 2-2 over their last 4, that would be amazing.
That's what I think they need to push for. Obviously, you're pushing for 5-0, but that's really the realistic. Hey, we went 3-2. We pulled 2 upsets. Now, if
none of it will matter if they lose to Penn State.
Yeah, I hear
They have to win at Penn State. Yeah. If they lose to Penn State, they're done. They could go 3-1 in their last 4. A loss to Penn State this late in the season. And again, I'm not taking anything away from Penn State. Look at their record. Look where they're at in the Big Ten. But if they lose to Penn State, they're done. Yep. Put a fork in them. They'd have to win the Big Ten tournament at that point.
Yeah.
Because the committee will go, you went 3-1 against ranked teams in the last one. Oh, but before that, which is recent, you lost to Penn State.
Yeah.
I guarantee it'll come up.
Yep. Agree 100%. Could be one of those classic look-ahead games where, oh, my God, look at this last 4-game stretch we have. Look what we have to do since we put ourselves behind the 8 ball. And you go to Penn State, you don't show up 100%, boop, you lose, done. So, very well could happen. Last game, Tuesday night, Maryland at Iowa. That's on BTN. That's
going to be a good one.
Legitimate NCAA tournament game right there. That's a good one. I don't got much more to say. I will say this: Iowa's got 3 good quality bigs. Maryland's got 2 at least. They start 2. Iowa's got 1 that comes off the bench that's really good, and then the guard play in this entire game is going to be phenomenal. I like these teams a lot. Maryland is up and down, and Iowa's defense at times can be bad. That's why these teams are 24th and 21st in the country and not 12th and 10th. But Maryland's super young. They also start 0 seniors. This is a young team, primarily freshmen and sophomores. So it is what it is there, and then Iowa's just getting better defensively. And they're actually scoring, and they've got a bunch of shooters, and their bigs are getting better. And also a team that's not exactly old. So Iowa next year going to be really good. If Bruno Fernando were to stay for some reason, again, for Maryland, they should have everyone back. They'd be great next year. I assume Fernando leaves and they lose a little bit there. But regardless, these 2 teams are very entertaining and good teams. So if you've got BTN, which I do not, I have to pull that up on the internet somehow, which I know how, but that's how I got to do it. I got to finagle my way around not having BTN. Youngster.
Finagling ways of the youngster.
The finagler, the youngster. Wednesday night, Rutgers at Michigan State. Michigan State should take care of business, but Rutgers is playing really well. I think you get the point.
I'm not even going to jump on the Rutgers bandwagon on this one.
Yeah.
I mean, Michigan State, I just talked about it, middle of February at Michigan State, Rutgers going there. Tom Izzo teams usually don't look ahead. It's going to be business as usual. Could get ugly in Michigan.
Yeah. A couple weeks ago, though, they played Illinois and lost. So anything's possible in this conference,
it's
especially
possible.
when Rutgers is playing teams.
And I'm sure a lot of teams atop that conference would love for Rutgers to go there and pull off an upset.
Yeah, would make lives easier, for sure. Other game Wednesday night, not I won't say anything. Ohio State at home against Northwestern. Also on BTN, both these games on BTN Wednesday night. If Ohio State wants to keep playing poorly and show why they don't belong, here's a perfect opportunity. Lose to Northwestern when you're at home. So here you go. If Ohio State wants to stay in good graces and stay on that 8 seed, 9 seed, 10 seed, don't leave us out, obviously, type mentality and looking ahead into March Madness, just beat Northwestern when you're at home. don't give the committee reasons why this team's actually playing like crap down the stretch. They don't deserve it. Nebraska recently, they deserve it. Ohio State, not so much. I mean, that's what it could come down to. And Nebraska could have the same exact, if not a game better Big Ten record than Ohio State does when it's all said and done, if these teams keep going where they're going as of the last week or two. Anyway,
well, and
Thursday.
That game, Kevin, I know you kind of like, it's Ohio State Northwestern. And to be honest, probably a lot of people listening to this show could probably care less about Ohio State Northwestern. But since we host this show and we talk about NCAA coming up, this is a must-win for Ohio State.
Right.
It's a must-win. They lose again. It's kind of like that Nebraska-Penn State game. The Penn State game is a must-win for Nebraska. If Ohio State loses to Northwestern, that'll put them at 6-9 in the conference.
Yeah.
Are they going to win? Are they going to win out and go 11-9? Okay, maybe they do, but again, if you're a tournament team, you cannot lose to Northwestern, and you can't lose at home. So,
right.
I mean, to me, that game on Wednesday night is a must-win for Ohio State. It's a must-win.
And after Northwestern, they play at Maryland, they play Iowa at home, then they play at Purdue, then they play at Northwestern, then they finish against Wisconsin. And it's not exactly easy. So, four tournament teams, and then you go to Northwestern. So, yeah, you got to win this one. This is the easiest game they have left on the schedule. 6 games left. This is the one you've got to get, for sure. Anything more yet?
Nope. Carry on.
Thursday night, Michigan on the road against Minnesota. ESPN. That's interesting because again,
it's going to be another good one.
And Minnesota at home can score, it seems like. So if Michigan has one of those off shooting nights, could be exactly what Penn State Michigan was, an upset. Could 100% be that. I'm not going to pick Minnesota over Michigan, but it's a game that an upset can happen. We just saw it last week with Michigan on the road.
Yeah, and Michigan's been a little wavy lately, Kevin. I think this is a game for Michigan. It almost might mean more for Michigan than Minnesota at this point because a loss to Michigan for Minnesota, it would hurt. It would hurt. But it's also one of those games when you're looking at it saying, okay, well, Minnesota should lose this game. Right. But Michigan, Kevin, to me, they've come back down to earth. After that tremendous start, they've come back down to earth. To me, they're a better than average team in the Big Ten. They're not an elite team in the Big Ten. Playing iffy basketball. This is kind of a prove-it game to me for Michigan. Like, they've got to go to Minnesota. Again, you don't need pageant points, but you got to go on the road in the Big Ten against a possible tournament team, and you've got to ride the ship, and this could be it. Just go there and win. Going on the road in the Big Ten, we've talked about this, is not an easy task. Michigan needs to win, and I think they need to win more for themselves. I mean, they're pretty much a lock for the tournament, but they're not playing really good basketball right now. They're very inconsistent. And I think this is a game where they can maybe breathe a little sigh like, okay, yeah, we're ready. But if they go to Minnesota and take this loss, I mean, the confidence level that I have in Michigan, it's not very high right now, Kevin, just because of how inconsistent they've been after that tremendous start when we thought nobody could beat them. And now they've come back down to earth. So I think this is a bigger game for Michigan than it is for Minnesota in my mind.
I agree 100%. Michigan, it was very interesting watching them against against Maryland this past week because it was like, damn, that's why Michigan, they were up 15 early. Like they were up 25-10, I think, on Maryland. And it's like, Jesus, this is why this team is an obvious 2 seed, and if they win the Big Ten tournament and win out and, things go their way and they're a 1 seed, they've got the talent, they've got the defense, certainly. They've got 3-point shooters. This is a really talented, really good defensive team. But when the offense is shaky and the defense gives up an 8-0 run, well, there you go. You can lose 64-60. And I keep bringing that score up randomly, but that can happen to Michigan. Harder to happen when it's Iowa. It's harder to beat Iowa 64-60 than Michigan because Iowa's just going to score. That's what Iowa does. Michigan State holding them to 60 points, that's very hard to do. But Michigan, absolutely possible because that's just the way Michigan is built. But anyway, yeah, huge game for Michigan, I think, there. Friday, one game, Indiana at Iowa. Again, Iowa should win this game. Iowa scores with ease. Indiana has not been scoring at all the last couple months. So this could be another one of those 15, 20-point games going against Indiana, in my opinion. Could be ugly there, but that's the only game Friday night on FS1. Saturday, there are, 4 games? Illinois at home against Penn State. If Penn State can go on the road and get an upset here, that's certainly nice for Penn State. Certainly could happen. Illinois has been playing well, though. So, again, they've won 4 straight games. Illinois, who's the other team they play this week? I already forgot. Oh, at Wisconsin. Difficult. If they were to beat Wisconsin on the road and then beat Penn State, it's like, oh, damn, this team's 8-8 in the Big Ten. So could certainly be talking about Illinois this time next week. And they would be winners at 6 straight at that point. And you look at 12-15 overall at that point, it's like this team's not 12-15. But they're 1 week away from making their resume at least look interesting. You know, right now it's just under 500 and terrible non-conference, so you're out. But they could start making it interesting if they pull an upset this week and then do what they should against Penn State. But could be an interesting game at noon on Saturday. At 2, Maryland at home against Ohio State. Again, Ohio State needs to take care of business earlier in the week. Otherwise, if you drop one there and then you go to Maryland on Saturday, good luck. I mean, the team could be 6-10 in the Big Ten this time next week if they have a little falter. And then they should go on the road to Maryland and lose. That should happen. But we'll see. Certainly going to be an interesting one. That's on ESPN. 4 o'clock, Purdue goes on the road to Nebraska, and this is where life really gets interesting for Nebraska. But you're at home. And if you not stop Carson Edwards, if you slow down Carson Edwards and the rest of the team does not kill you, Nebraska could begin their little Cinderella run here, which I was talking about a week ago. Should Purdue go on the road and win? Yes, but if you've got a senior-laden team and you're playing well and Purdue's not shooting well, an upset can happen, is all I'll say there. Wisconsin on the road at Northwestern to close the night on Saturday. Again, Wisconsin should take care of business at Northwestern. I've been to a Northwestern basketball game at Northwestern, and their home court advantage is basically non-existent. I'll say that. But Wisconsin will have to travel. They won't be in the comforts of their own home. They should win. Again, Northwestern, you could make the case, has been playing the worst consistently, I guess, in the Big Ten this year. But, you know, Wisconsin should take care of business here, and Wisconsin should take care of business against Illinois. They should be 19-8. They should be 11-5 in conference next week when we're doing the show. Yeah, but that's why we play the games, because things don't exactly go as they should. Finally, when we thought Michigan would be 27-0, we didn't. We didn't think Michigan would be 27-0 at this point, but finally, Michigan State.
You did bring it up, though, youngster. You brought up the hypothetical.
Like an idiot, I did. Hey, this could happen. No, not even close. But
they gave you no reason at that point to think that they were going to come back down to earth. They were so dominant.
They should have been favored in every single game, and I'm sure they were still favored in every single game that they lost. They lost 3. They were 17-0. Now they're 23-3. They're 6-3 in their last 9. 3 games they should have won, they lost. That's why we're saying they're a little shaky as of late. And there's a reason for that. The last month or so, they've been shaky. 3 games they should have won, they lost. So, anyway, huge game, obviously. 3:45. You never really see that. But 3:45 p.m. Eastern Time start time on Sunday afternoon, CBS. certainly a DVR game if you're not watching it live. If there's one game you want to DVR, Michigan State at Michigan, that's certainly the one to do it. Again, Sunday afternoon on CBS. Michigan State at Michigan. My voice is actually getting tired. I can hear it myself. But these last two games are all we have to preview until next week's episode. So Michigan State, Michigan, I mean, both these teams play really good defense. Michigan State usually goes on more of an offensive spurt than Michigan does, at least in terms of consistency, and the team that's more likely to get an 8-0, 12-2 run is Michigan State. I honestly think that's probably going to be the difference, is which team goes on that 12-2 run. Then it's over, in my opinion. I don't think you come back against Michigan when you're down 10. And if Michigan State's on the road and up 10 and they got a run going, they're feeling good, Michigan starts doubting themselves, oh, my God, have been struggling a little bit as of late. Michigan State has won 3 straight. They'll be feeling confident. I think whichever team gets that solid 8-0, 12-2, whatever it is run, I think that's what wins this game. I mean, individually, you want to break down matchups. I mean, we could do this for 15 minutes just breaking this game down. But until it becomes March Madness, then we won't go too far into it. But, again, a game you want to DVR, and does it matter in the grand scheme of things? It could, because the winner of this...
For seeding, it certainly does, youngster.
Exactly. This could be the difference between, Michigan State deserves a 1 seed, not Michigan. Michigan's going to be a 2. Or if one of these teams falters a little, this team should be a 3 seed. When they had a chance to beat Michigan State, when they had a chance to beat Michigan, they didn't. They'll be a 3 instead of a 2. That could be the difference of playing Iowa instead of whatever 7 seed is there. You don't know how the matchups are going to play out, obviously, but typically you'd rather play a 7 seed than a 6 seed. Typically you'd rather play a 16 than a 15. Just historically. That's how the numbers go for a reason. The better teams get seeded higher, obviously. Usually. That's how it's supposed to work. So, yes, being a 2 seed is better than a 3 seed. Matchup-wise, on any given year, any given matchup, sure, maybe you'd rather play the 2 instead of the 3. Or whatever it is, But this game, at the end of the day, could be the difference in seeding and in the matchup that screws over Michigan or screws over Michigan State. We saw it a year ago. Michigan State did not take care of business and win the Big Ten tournament. Here's a perfect example. They didn't win the Big Ten tournament a year ago. They end up a 2 seed, not a 1, and they end up playing Syracuse in the second round. They lose because Syracuse has that lengthy 2-3 zone where you can shoot like crap, and in March Madness, boom, you're done against Syracuse. That happens every other year. Syracuse upsets someone they shouldn't beat. Happens every other year. Michigan State, that's what happened to them last year. They should have been able to play Duke, I think it was. In the Sweet 16, it was going to be fantastic. Instead, they lost.
I think most of America had that matchup.
Yeah, as you should have. But, that's where one game here, one game there, you're going to be a 2 seed instead. And that means you play a 7 seed. And that's actually Syracuse. That's actually a little more difficult than you would want in your second round game if you're a great team. So that's why all these games matter. You don't know it at the time, but it's these kind of games that can make the difference for you. So that's all I got on that one.
I don't got much more to add, youngster. I already brought up what the importance is. You look at both these teams. Does it matter 1, 2, or 3 in the Big Ten? In my mind, no. What matters in the Big Ten is you get the double bye. Right. And both these teams are pretty close to wrapping up a double bye. I mean, there's still games left, don't get me wrong, but I don't see either of these teams faltering so much that they fall out of the double bye. And then at that point, you're just playing good basketball anyway. We've talked about how deep the conference is, but this game is so important for NCAA seeding. You look at where they're ranked in the top 10. What is it, Michigan 7 or Michigan 6, Michigan State 10? Is that what it is?
Michigan 7, Michigan State 10.
Yeah, so 7 and 10. And you look at this depending on how the overall week goes, but that game on Sunday, that winner's probably going to move above the other one, and that's going to put one of them probably up in that 6-7 seed. And we've already found out that Nevada is not in the good graces of the committee. So if you're a Michigan and you lose this game, Michigan State's maybe taking that number 2 seed from you, and now you're number 3.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Is the winner is definitely a 2 seed at this point, and obviously anything can happen the last few weeks. But the winner is definitely a 2 seed. The loser is probably down to a 3. And again, like I just mentioned, that could be the difference of you playing a Syracuse or you playing whoever team that you should beat, and that's what screws you over. And boom, oh wow, second round upset, Michigan State's gone. Well, you can go back to February and find out why. So, anyway, moving on. Last game, not as exciting. Won't go as in-depth on that one. Rutgers at home against Minnesota. Minnesota should go on the road and take care of business. But, again, it's Rutgers at home, and Rutgers this year, on the road or at home, proving to play solid basketball. If Minnesota plays an average game, they can be beat against Rutgers, especially on the road at Rutgers. So, huge opportunity for Minnesota here to prove, yes, obviously we belong in the NCAA tournament. If not, then, oh my God, look, we're faltering. Look, we're obviously under 500 in the Big Ten. Look, we don't deserve an NCAA tournament bid. So that's why all these games are important. We don't get paid to say that. We do this podcast for fun. We do this show for fun, but we see the number of views we get.
If somebody wants to pony up the bucks and pay us, we'll gladly listen.
Oh yeah.
Don't just throw it out there, Kevin. That we'll just keep doing. No, if somebody wants to pony up some bucks and pay us to do this, I'm in. I'm in. So. I just want to mention this, though, Kevin. As much as, I sit and I talk about Rutgers because they're my team. I've adopted them. I want them to get in the postseason. Minnesota cannot lose to Rutgers. This is another one of those games that if Minnesota goes to Rutgers and they lose, they might want to get on their tightrope slippers because they'll be walking a very thin line getting into the NCAA tournament. As much as we talk about how much improved Rutgers is and they've got conference wins here and there, if you're Minnesota, you go to Rutgers, you lose on Sunday, I'm not going to put the fork all the way in, but I'm going to have it in my hand, and I'm going to get ready to poke it in you because you cannot go to Rutgers and lose if you're an NCAA tournament team. You cannot. That's a huge game for Minnesota, Kevin, and I hope they don't overlook Rutgers because Rutgers is proving we're going to play. We're going to be Cinderella. We're going to – all of these games are our tournament games, and we're going to play you hard. And if we can give you a loss that you shouldn't have, to them that's a huge win for Rutgers, Kevin. They know they're not making the NCAA tournament. So when Minnesota comes to town, they're just going to go out and play. And Minnesota better be ready because if Minnesota loses their tournament hopes – whoo-wee, on thin ice.
Minnesota, just to give a little bit of backstory here, said we wouldn't really get into it, but I guess we are for a few seconds here. Minnesota lost 4 straight games, and then they beat Indiana by 20. Okay, that's great. But now, again, earlier in the week, they play Michigan, probably going to lose that. They should. Then if you lose to Rutgers, then it's like, oh, my God, now we're 17-11 overall. Now we're only 7-10 in the Big Ten. 3 games left at Northwestern. Even if you win that, okay, 8-10 in the Big Ten. Now you play Purdue and Maryland to close out. Could very well finish 8-12 at that point. And if you only win one more game in this regular season, that puts you at 18. You would need 2 more to get to that level where, if you're an NCAA tournament team, you basically need 20. So then it gets difficult. Then they might have to pull an upset in the Big Ten tournament. That's not what you want. Get to 20 as soon as you can. That's really the magical number to be like, this team's around 500 in the Big Ten, could be the best conference. They've got 20 wins. They're in. If not, and you falter down if they go 1-4 these last 5, that's 2-8 in the last 10. going into the Big Ten tournament.
Not
yeah,
a good
yeah,
resume.
Pulling some upset. Yeah. So, 6 very strong teams in the Big Ten, in my opinion. Ohio State, Minnesota certainly could play themselves out, and it can only be a 6-bid league, which seems very weird at this point with how strong the conference is. But if you don't take care of business like you're supposed to, then that's just the way it is this time of year.
Well, and Kevin, would it surprise me at the end of the conference season that 6 only get in now? Even though at the beginning of the year we said there's 10 quality teams in here,
right.
We'll circle back to the beginning of the show. These teams, like now you have the Nebraska, even at Northwestern not playing really good, but Rutgers is a huge surprise. Indiana not playing very well, but Illinois playing really well. I mean,
right.
I just mentioned teams that are probably not going to be in the NCAA tournament. These are teams, though, that are going out and they're getting that one win or that second win over one of those teams that, we thought were a quality NCAA team. No, I could see 6. I could see Minnesota and Ohio State faltering against a team they should not falter against, and then boom,
right.
Committee's going to say, no, screw it, you're not in. And then we're down to 6. And it would just go back to prove our whole theory that some of these teams are going to knock off other teams because the conference is so deep.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be because they're bad teams, just because
right.
you got some good teams top to bottom. But that's all I got, youngster.
Yeah, I said before the year started, I figured 7 teams would make it. And as the year's gone along, obviously it's like, well, maybe 8. Well, actually, maybe 9. And at times, people thought 10, which I never went that heavy, but could only be 6 very strong teams. Like last year, there were 4 very strong teams from the Big Ten. This year, there'll definitely be 6. No real questions about that. But outside of those 6, to be determined. That's it for me this week. I'm done.
All righty, youngster. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed the show. For the youngster, I am the old man. Find us on Twitter at Youngster Old Man. I am at Troy Robert 967. The finagling youngster. There we go. At Kid Sonny on Twitter, KIDCUNI. Hope you enjoyed the show, everybody. We'll get back at you next week, same place, same time. Have a good week.